The word millionaire actually used to make me cringe. I thought it meant wanting too much, being greedy, or that it would change me. And now I run a multi-million dollar company. In this episode, I sit down with my producer, Natalie, and we talk all things how to begin to trust yourself with money. I even share a behind the scenes story of how I cried at a kitchen counter on a profit and loss report, and also dive into how to actually have money dates.
You now run a multi-million dollar company, but at one point, being a millionaire made you feel really uncomfortable. So I would love to dive into that and hear about what changed in that journey.
When I was first going out on my own, I was always the type of person who never really, I think once I felt brave enough to go out on my own, I just realized I was kind of the person who was never going to be the one with small dreams. I was always the one with big dreams. And I always had these like big ideas of what I wanted to create once the permission I had given myself was there. And then once I went out on my own, I recognized that, I'm doing the things, I'm learning how to run a business, I'm learning how to do the taxes, I'm learning how to do all the things. I'm operating, I'm building, and at this point I have no clue about the subconscious. I have no clue on the nervous system. And I'm just operating as a girl with dreams and trying to learn how to run a business. And I remember it was right around the time of having my salon at the time, and I had a client who was sitting down with me, and she was on Shark Tank. She had all these big dreams, big goals, aspirations. And I remember her saying to me about what she was building and how she was going to be going on Shark Tank and how she was going to be doing all these things. And she was talking about all of the numbers. And I remember vividly my body responding and it being a very interesting thing for me. And it was that moment where I recognized, ooh, that's interesting. There was a little bit of curiosity around why my body was starting to respond to her talking about a lot of impact and a lot of wealth and a lot of overflow and a lot of investment. There were conversations that I hadn't been familiarized with. It was just me, my dream, and moving and doing. And then it kind of just became this more curiosity moment for me. And then the moment she said, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to do all these things. And I was like, and she said to me, you could be a millionaire. And I had this visceral response. I think audibly, I went, ugh. And then I was like, "Whoa, wait, what? Whoa." It was all automatic, like, I wasn't in control of it, and then she had even said to me, being a millionaire is just like you're just helping more people, right?" And then I had to get really curious because the word in itself had created such a sense of, I don't know what's happening in my body, and I could feel my throat closing up, I could feel my heart start to beat a little bit faster, I could almost feel my shoulders kind of like a millionaire, ooh. But at this point, I had a business. I'd launched successful programs. I had launched it was the word itself that had created this visceral experience in my body.
Where do you think that came from?
You think about word association, right? Every single word in your vocabulary has memory attached to it. For example, we'll just do like a really neutral thing. You know how when people talk about, oh, yeah, I'm going to name my baby and then they name it and you're like, oh my God, I don't like that name because that's like my ex boyfriend's name. And, or I had a friend in middle school and I'm like, oh God, it's just a name. But to you, it's something completely different. So for me, I recognized that the word millionaire itself meant something completely other than how I self identified. And also it got me more and more curious around why do I think that? And then that's when I started to recognize the subconscious and the stories and the somatic memory attached to just a single word.
If you could go back in time to that version of Jamie, what would you tell her?
Hmm, that's a really great question. It's okay that you're uncomfortable. It's okay that it doesn't make sense. It's okay that you don't have an answer right now. But I'm really proud of you for getting curious and for figuring out why. Because I think a lot of people would have just been like, I'm uncomfortable, and that's the end of it. There's just this, nope. But I got really intrigued by it. And I wanted to figure out why, because it was a sensation I had never experienced in my life. And especially as someone who had big dreams and big goals and big desires, like, why did that word make me feel so nervous and uncomfortable?
Taking yourself back there, what are some beliefs around money that you had then?
That if I made more money than what my parents had made, that I was not going to be accepted or loved. And I know that sounds to some people, it's gonna be like, wow, that's pretty dramatic. But if you think about it from a biological standpoint, when you're raised in a specific household with a specific upbringing around money and finances and bills and what you think is possible, or the conversations around people that are different than you start to realize that there's just this sense of belonging, this deep desire to be loved and to feel the sense of belonging, even if it's not what you really want for your life anymore or even feel aligned with. There's just the idea of feeling like you're outside of that, or you no longer belong, even if that's not true or you don't even have factual evidence. I would say that that was a large belief that it would make me a bad person. It would make me an unlovable person. It would make me someone that was no longer relatable. I think I feared that other people would think I was better than them, or that I thought that I was better than them. I think that was a big one for me. I think certain upbringings, and this isn't historically true for every single person, but I know that there's a lot of relatability in conversations around struggle and the frustration around paying bills, or being angry at the government, or being angry at taxes, or being angry at all of these things that are outside of ourselves. And there's this conversation and relatability between struggle and being angry at something else versus having full authorship and ownership of your experience and not feeling like you're a victim to your experience. And I don't mean that in a way of like you're a victim or you're playing the victim on purpose, but I think when you recognize that you are in the driver's seat of your own life and in the driver's seat of your own stories and your own subconscious and your own body and your own career and choices, you recognize that at some point you realize that nothing outside of yourself can stop you from where you are desiring to go. Like you are in the driver's seat of that.
What advice would you give someone who that is their comfortable, that's like where they go is struggle?
Mhm. I remember there was a moment when things started to get really, really good. I think this was the moment when I moved into our dream house, farmhouse. It was like it was on the vision board. It was, you know, it was a big identity step of being the person who built the house, who was on the land, that had the farmhouse, had literally everything that they had ever dreamed of. Was now I'm now walking into this house, moving in, and I will never forget the moment I just felt sad and I felt uncomfortable being in that home for probably like a good 2 months, because I was like, "Am I deserving of this? Is it okay for me to feel safe and have the things that I desire?" And then I remember sitting down and thinking, because it was so good for the first time in so long, that I asked myself, I go, "Who are you if you're not suffering? Like, who are you if you're not struggling or like trying to get somewhere else? Like, you've arrived and like you have to be in that space now and you have to integrate into the goodness and know that nothing is taking this away, and that even if something does happen, you can handle it." And I think that we identify with struggle because if you're always living separate from the feeling of good, if you're always searching for something outside of yourself, like the success, the money, the house, the relationship, the body, the career, and you're waiting, there's this goalpost, there's this end thing away somewhere further from where you are, and that holds your joy, and that holds your safety, and that holds your happiness, and that holds your essence of success or acceptance or feeling good finally, then you're always in the separation of it. You're always never there. So you get used to never having what you want because there's something outside of yourself that holds the key, when really it's an internal job, an internal work of, can I be okay in the now? Can I feel good now? Even if I don't have what I want, even if it feels challenging, can I still sit in this moment and be grateful for what is here for me now? And when you are not aware of that process, you're always struggling to get somewhere that you're not. And then when you get there, you think it's going to give you what you want, and it never does. And you eventually get to a place where you keep moving the fucking goalpost, and they're just always not happy.
Yeah, this
Like
is
there's a
relatable, yes.
yes. I
Yeah,
mean, I've been there.
yeah.
That was a large part of my life.
Did you ever have to work through the feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop?
Yeah. So that's actually somatic memory. That is the actual process of there's 2 things happening in that moment. Actually, a lot of our clients navigate this because when it gets good, you don't know how you're not integrated there, so you're, like, bracing for something else to happen. And that's the kind of the exact same thing when I moved into the house, right? I moved in and I'm like, "I don't know if I can feel good this," and it's like, "No, you get to enjoy this, and no matter what happens, you can handle it." So, 2 things are happening. If there's ever been an experience in your past, remember everything that you're ever achieving is gonna go through a Rolodex of your past experiences. So, if you've been in a and you're getting into a new relationship, and let's just say that you got your heart broken 5 years ago, and you've been working on it, and you finally found this love of your life, and then you get there and things are really good, and the brain's like, "But remember the last time you got your heart broken? Remember when they cheated on you? Remember when this happened?" And then you brace yourself for it to happen again. And then there's also the second piece, which is getting so used to struggling, getting so used to suffering that when something does arrive, it feels like it's fleeting because you aren't capable in that moment of recognizing there is so much good here and I get to sit and be here and not prepare for the worst thing to happen. Does that make sense? Did I
Yeah,
explain that?
it's like having presence in your life.
Well, I mean, if you think about it this way, if you are in the moment of presence and you can hold the duality of being okay with where you are, but still simultaneously holding the vision for what you want your life to be. That vision doesn't hold your joy, it doesn't hold all of your happiness, but it is something that you desire for your life and there's inevitability to it. If you can hold that duality of like, I'm okay where I am right now, even if it's not what I want, I'm okay right now even if I don't feel 100% ready or confident or successful, like, I still am okay, like, baseline safety in the body, right? If you can hold those 2, you recognize that you can always ground into safety and always feel okay, no matter the circumstances, no matter if you're not there yet, and it can still be okay, even if it's not exactly the way you want it to be in that moment.
Okay, so you worked through a lot of different beliefs, and then I'm curious, what did it feel like when you realized you had $1 million company?
I remember putting it on the background of my computer. I was very intentional because once the energy was clear around it, once I realized that this was not a money goal for me, this was an impact goal for me. It was I desire to impact a lot of people, and that is I think the differentiating factor for a lot of people is like I want to create $1 million business so I can say that I have $1 million business or to feel this sense of like I did it, right? This pride that goes and everyone's journey is amazing, but for me as a heart-led leader, it was I recognize that if I have reached this goal, I have made a much larger impact with a lot of people because I knew my work was getting clients really amazing results. It was changing their lives. It was feeling amazing. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, we're going there. Like, we're gonna go there, and then the second I hit it, it was like time collapsed, and it just tripled and tripled and tripled, and all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, we're it's not stopping, and it's not gonna stop."
How did you expand your capacity to receive like that on a consistent basis?
I think that there's an integration process of regulating in real life time. So the moment that someone pays their first maybe high ticket program, right? I'll never forget the first time there was a $25,000 investment that came in. And if dad, if you're watching this, I love you so much. But I vividly remember talking to him about having a high ticket program in the early stages of this company, because obviously I had 2 before this. I remember saying, "This is something I really desire to do, and I know the level of impact." And I think what the words he said was, "That's a lot of money. Who's gonna pay that?" And I remember having this feeling of and deep awareness of the subconscious at that point that he wasn't saying that I couldn't do it. He was saying to him and through his vantage point as a non-entrepreneur, that felt challenging for him to understand. And then when the first one came in, I remember thinking, I can't wait to change this person's life. Like, that was it. That was the first thought. It was my dad, and then how much I can't wait to change this person's life. And then the next one came in, and then the next one came in. And I just kept saying, I am so excited to support them. I cannot wait for them. If I, because I'm committed to them, and if as long as they are committed to the process, they're going to fly it to the moon. And I just kept thinking about how good it's going to be for them. And that was it. That's how I regulated in real lifetime.
When you say regulated and
Because I think when you think about how do you expand your capacity to it, it's your memory of what you think that amount of money is. And so I was assigning that amount of revenue that came in was, holy moly, this person's about to change their life. Like, they just commit, like, that's such a huge moment for them. I didn't mirror it to me. I mirrored it to that person just committed so much in not just the process and in themselves, but in me. And there's a process of understanding that that amount of revenue didn't mean, oh my gosh, this is so much money. It's, this person's about to change their life. And that's how I moved away from making it mean something about the numbers.
yeah, more rooted in transformation and
It's exactly
genuine
what it was.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is when anyone commits in invests, whether it be in a car, in a house, in a coach, in a experience, a trip, they're committing to a new experience. And when I always say that when someone invests anything, right? Because everyone's going to see that amount of revenue that they're investing is a unique experience. Someone could invest $500 and be like, that's the most amount of money I've ever spent on myself, right? Someone can invest $100,000. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that that person recognizes, I'm going to change my life.
How did you learn to trust yourself with that amount of money as it like, was that a struggle at all?
No, it felt new. I think with any new experience, think about it, like when you're riding a bike, when you are driving a car. I remember learning how to drive a car. I was like white knuckled on the fucking wheel, right? And like turning down the music so I could see better, right? Like there's just there's newness in that experience, and it wasn't that I didn't feel like I couldn't trust myself as much as I know that anytime amount of revenue comes in, I'm going to recognize in this experience that if there is a question of where do I invest that money or how do I prepare for taxes for that money, like I'm going to find the person that's going to support me. I'm going to do the research. So I always knew that resources were always made available, that there's always someone that knows more than I do, and the questions that I have will always be answered. I don't know if that answered your question though. Did you mean that in a different way? Like, what would trust mean to you in that moment?
I don't know, like, it didn't freak you out?
Would it freak you out?
I mean, I struggle sending invoices, so yes.
Yeah. So there's a
Which
well,
that's its
there it
own thing, which I also was gonna ask. I'm like, what like, which I feel like we've probably had this conversation, but the feeling guilty charging people, it's just so annoying.
it's
That's my own
it's an
personal thing.
it's an invitation just to get curious. That's all it is. It's just an invitation for you. If it feels like it doesn't feel easy and you want it to feel easier, then just get curious. Start asking questions on why, and then just keep and hold neutrality, no judgment, and keep asking why until you start recognizing. And then once you get to that, then it's a rebuilding of recognizing this is the reason why it feels challenging for me, and then this is how I would like to feel instead. And anytime it starts to feel challenging, you take the brave action and then get your body back into a safe moment and reaffirm that the thing that you're afraid is going to happen isn't universal truth, and you can find proof of the opposite. Okay, so an example of this. Let's just say that there is someone who invests in a production. Okay. And maybe this production is higher, and in terms of a higher investment, you're going to need more team members, maybe double the amount of team members, right? But it's something that's like, ooh, this feels exciting. Like, it's, you know how you are with the creative energy, and it's really fun for you, right? But this is going to be requiring maybe double the team and double the investment. Okay, what does that bring up for you?
I'm freaked out.
Okay, That's all right.
Even though I have a sense of like I know I could do it, there's still this internal thing that comes up of like, ooh,
Okay. So, an example here, and something I would recommend if a client was sitting in front of me and saying this, there's a duality moment that's happening. Every moment is an opportunity to recognize that if I take action as the version of me that feels comfortable, how would she move in this moment? She would most likely be like, okay, this feels good. This is exciting. I like this. I'm going to do this. Okay, it's bringing up some interesting experiences, but I feel excited about this project. This project is something I really want to do. Then how would she write the invoice? How would she approach that? Okay, so think about that for a moment. And then every single moment, as you don't think about the entire experience, because a lot of times what ends up happening, this is historically true for whether you're launching a project, whether you're, charging more in your business. If there's something new that you're integrating into, it feels wobbly, like kind of like a baby giraffe legs, right? Just like
baby giraffe.
a little wobbly. It's just like you're not fully
Yeah.
integrated into it, and that's okay. You don't need to be in that moment. But the thing that we want to take away is thinking about the entire process, acting like that person for the whole thing right now, off the bat, off the rip, the entire way through. And you're like, right? What's the first step that we would need to take? One step. How would that version of me like to respond in this step? Okay. Does it feel uncomfortable? Yes. How can I bring my body back to safety? How can I comfort myself? How can I tell myself it's okay? Maybe if you had a coach or you had a partner or something where you can co-regulate in that moment, where you call a friend or you say, "Hey, I'm doing something that feels really uncomfortable for me. Can you sit with me? Can you just be with me? Can you just witness me and just sit with me while I do it?" So you don't have to feel like you have to do it alone, right? Okay, got the first step. Amazing. It felt uncomfortable, but I did it. Okay, good job. Next step, integrative moments. Co-regulate it if you need to. Recognize when it feels uncomfortable. Affirm that it's okay. It's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to go back and not do it. It's a reason to assure the body that it's safe. And every time you move in that moment, you're building a new bridge to the identity of the person that you're becoming.
Hmm.
This actually just happened to one of my clients inside of Currency Academy. So, and this is one of the most important things that I could ever, anyone who's listening, because I've experienced this in the past, is when you're learning something new, we have a tendency to think about the entire roadmap all at once. And what does that do? Creates massive overwhelm, and it also makes you feel behind. And when you feel behind, or you don't know how to do something, or there's shame or embarrassment attached to that, or a sense of, I'm not there yet, it's going to dysregulate the body. It's going to bring up more swirling thoughts of doubt. If you can integrate in the exact same moment, like I just mentioned before, each step, celebrate it, regulate, co regulate if necessary, move, next step. And anytime you're starting to make it big, I gotta bring it back. Ooh, I'm thinking about the whole process. I don't need to in this moment. It's not necessary. It's not supportive. Bring it back. Because when we're driving a car for the first time, we're thinking about, where does my foot have to be? How do I do that? How do I get on the highway? What do I do? And we're future pacing into dysregulation. Bring it back to the present moment. Integrate each step so you don't feel the feelings of feeling behind.
Celebrate and regulate. I feel like that could be
Celebrate,
a jingle.
regulate.
I heard a story from you at one point where I don't know if it was the same millionaire from the other story, but you were sitting with them, something about profit and loss.
Oh, yeah, I know that story. Yeah, that was the same person.
Okay. Can you
Oh,
take me through that story a
I'd
little
love
bit?
to. I'd love nothing more.
Amazing.
I remember at this point now, this very, very successful person is in my life, and they were a really big expander for me. And when you're not familiar with your own behaviors, your own coping mechanisms, your own stories, your own fears in that moment, I didn't really know anything about the subconscious then. So I'm just moving through life without any self-awareness, right? So she invited me over. We were gonna work on some projects together. I was gonna work on my thing, she was gonna work on her thing, and I remember sitting in the kitchen with her, and she's sitting there and she's got her profit and loss reports out. And she's talking about her numbers, and I can feel my body start to, right? And I remember her saying, okay, so what about in this moment is making you feel uncomfortable? Because she could see that I was visibly uncomfortable. And I started to cry. And then she immediately said, why are you crying? Why? But it wasn't in a supportive, let's take a beat. It was, you should just know your numbers like the back of your hand. And in that moment, I felt shame, embarrassment, and I just broke down. And the first memory that came up was actually me sitting as I think I was in middle school. I remember sitting in my kitchen and I was doing math homework. Math has always historically been really, really challenging for me. And I remember sitting there and my father getting really frustrated with me for not understanding how to do a math equation. And then me feeling embarrassed. And then in that moment recognizing that I had claimed that I wasn't good at numbers, I wasn't good at math. So historically, whenever you associate, I'm not good at this thing, or this thing becomes more challenging, or it makes me feel embarrassed, you're going to cope in some way, whether it's to prove yourself or it's to avoid or it's to try to, it's not that big of a deal, right? Try to people please your way through it. For me, it was pure avoidance. So I didn't want to look at my numbers. I didn't want to look at my profit and loss reports because why? Because it reminded me of a time where I felt embarrassed. And all of the times in math class where we're doing the multiplication test, right? And I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. And then I would hide in the bathroom. And then I would come back thinking that they'd be done. And they waited for me. And I was like, I'm going to have to do this fucking math equation and I'm going to fail. I failed. Fun fact, every single math class I've ever taken, ever in school, I've failed. It's always been an F every single time because I recognize now that even when I was younger, it was really challenging for me, but I had committed to the identity of not being good at it. And I proved it again and again and again and again and again. And I honestly, now looking back, I think if I had different tools, I probably could have learned it.
I'm curious, you had that belief when you were younger. Now do you see yourself as smart with money?
Smart with money, I think I would say I'm very aware of where I still need support. I don't want to say that I'm not smart with money, but I will say that I'm not an expert in everything when it comes to money, but I have always found the resources and the people to support me in either stepping in to support me with those conversations or awareness pieces or education. And I've never been afraid to witness myself and say, that's not something I'm familiar with, or that's not something I understand or have knowledge in. And I'm willing to find it. I'm willing to be a beginner in certain aspects.
What kind of support have you leaned into in the various different stages?
In this company, we've always had an accountant, and this accountant works for a larger company. So once we were meeting, we would meet every month, and it wasn't something that's like, oh, they're just gonna do our taxes, right? It was we're going to look at every single profit and loss. We're going to look at absolutely everything. And we would meet every month. We would go through all the pieces. We would know exactly what we wanted to put aside and what investment accounts. And then from there, once they saw that the business was growing as big as it was, that's when I had said to them, I need you to let me know when we need to start moving into having like a wealth advisor of being much more intentional about where things need to go and what accounts need to be opened because this is the biggest company I've ever run, and I'm looking for someone who's an expert in XYZ and that they can advise me. So once that happened, we got to the place where they had decided this is the right time. We're going to introduce you to this person. And then Nick and I met up with them in person and actually met all of the wealth advisors in person before we committed to anything. They gave us a full run through of everything, and I'm a splenic projector, which means I make decisions from my intuition. when I meet someone, I inevitably have this moment where it's a yes or a no. Especially someone advising me in an area that I'm unfamiliar with or still learning, I need my body to say yes in that moment. And these were all yeses. They were all every single one of them was a yes. And then we went into now having more monthly meetings and more information and a lot more paperwork and a lot more decisions. And honestly, it felt really exciting to feel supported in a way of not feeling like I had to be the expert in everything and that there were so many incredible and I mean, when you meet someone that has knowledge that you don't have, it just feels like this rush of
Relief.
relief, and they're to be trusted, and they are incredibly kind and supportive and helpful, and it just feels amazing to know that you can have that support.
A memory that came up for me with this
Mhm.
question with you is I remember your financial advisors basically being like, "You're spending too much money in your business right now and you gotta like
Mhm.
pump the brakes." And you
Mhm.
were like, "Nah."
Mhm.
So basically,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just curious how you navigate
Oh,
that.
that was actually a really cool conversation. I'm
Ooh,
so
tell me
excited to
about
talk about
it.
it. So, when I hired my accountant and these financial advisors, I had one subcontractor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's changed a lot.
it's changed a lot. So, with them, they didn't understand the vision. They just say, "Well, hey, you're hiring a lot of people all of a sudden. And there's a lot going out." And I said, "I need you to trust me in this moment. I know it doesn't make sense, but we're in a very pivotal moment in the company where I am building a foundation where this is going to be able to scale." So I said, in about a year from now, we are going to be about triple the amount of revenue that we have right now. And I need all of the key players in place. And it may not look like it makes sense right now to you, but it makes sense to me. And I need you to trust me, and that if I need to be making any other decisions, then I will. Because to them, like, I was making really big moves at that moment. Like, I was at a moment where they were looking at me saying, "This is the amount of money that's coming in, and you only had this person, and now you're hiring like 6 people and a whole sales team and a whole thing." And I go, "No, trust the vision. Trust it. It's not making sense right now. It's not going to. For at least 6 months, it's not gonna make sense to you. But you need to trust me on this one." And they just said, "Okay." And I remember them, like, even pulling up a report. They're like, "This is going out in this." I go, "I know it's going out. I know where everything is going." And they had said, Okay." And it was in that moment where they were like, I think we're just gonna let her I think we're just gonna let her do her thing." Because I told them straight up.
I think it is very cool that you went from crying over a P&L to basically responding to financial advisors confidently. That's such a big shift. The next thing I want to kind of, because I feel like this is related, is your money dates.
Mm.
Tell me
Would you
about
like
them.
to know about my money
Yes.
dates? Okay. Money dates, this could be a lot of, this could be unique to each person, but I'll share it from my experience and maybe some suggestions for others that may want to introduce this. This is specifically for anyone who's experiencing any kind of fear avoidance around outgoing funds, around looking at their bank account, looking at profit, like even if it just brings up, "Ooh, I don't want to do it." Because there's a swing of a pendulum here, because there's the swing over here, which is I'm always aware of everything. Almost so it's almost this gripping of like, I need to know where, like constantly checking the bank account, like, "Oh, oh, there it is. Okay." And then there's the other side, right? Where it's like, I haven't looked at it in months, right? That there's and somewhere in between, right? Now, I was on the side where it was in complete avoidance because it created so much frustration and sadness in the body, because you have to think about it this way. The reason we avoid things is because there's a perceived emotional response that we do not want to have. It's going to make us feel uncomfortable. It's going to make us feel like we don't have enough. It's going to make us feel embarrassed or shameful. It's going to make us, and then we don't know how to regulate that space. So we avoid it because we don't know how to move through it. So we just stop, right? But when you have the tools, you can get into that experience and bring your body to safety in the moment. So a money date is exactly that. A lot of times what ends up happening is entrepreneurs will get into a space where they look at the bank account and then they're in their working space, right? Maybe it's their office or maybe it's the place where they actually associate work and then they're looking at their bank account. And so we want to reassociate these money dates or the viewing of this in a much more relaxed and different environment. So even just your environmental space of doing this makes a big difference because memory is happening every moment of the day, right? So when you go and you print out your profit and loss or your bank statements or something like that, for example, you print them out, you go into a neutral space. This could be out in a garden. This could be in your bedroom. This could be in a coffee house. It could be literally anywhere, but wherever you don't do work, wherever there's positive or neutral memory is where you want to be. And I lit candles. I put on my favorite music. I popped a bottle of champagne and then I put on music. And then I remember just looking at it. And every single time I would look at them, I would notice how my body was feeling. And then I would feel a feeling. I'd be like, hey, you're all right. I wasn't going into that to look at it in a way of I have to figure anything out. I'm just going to be with you. I'm going to experience you. I'm going to be here until my body has nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, like literally just looking at it.
Just look at it,
Yeah.
but in a space that feels supportive and have the tools to be able to bring your body back to safety. So for example, if you start to feel your throat, like just listen to the body as you're doing it, right? Maybe it's swirling thoughts. Okay. Or maybe it's a tightening of the throat or your chest feels heavy or you can feel your stomach, like a pit in your stomach. Just kind of noticing where it is in the body and then being able to bring your body back to safety. So this could be hand on the heart. This could be deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, affirming that you're okay, that you're safe, that everything's okay, that you're well resourced, that no matter what, I'm okay. Even if it's looking at and also looking at things, naming things around the room. Oh, okay. Ah, look at that floor. Okay, perfect. Oh, look at the sky is blue. That's nice. Right? Just bringing yourself into the body, back into the present moment because your body is bringing you back into fear, into an old memory, and you have to bring it back in. And then the next thing that I would suggest with that is being able to reaffirm that in this moment, I am safe. In this moment, I am okay. I care about you. Everything is okay. You're doing so great. I'm so proud of you. Okay. I know you're scared. It's okay. Feel scared. I got you. Right. Almost making it feel like there's two separate people, like that you're parenting yourself, loving on yourself, and giving yourself the support that you need. And then the last thing that I would suggest with that is not feeling like you have to figure it out and then doing it maybe once a week or twice a week until it starts to become something that's still like bringing up a little bit, but it's like, okay, we're good. It's fine. It's all good. And moving from that space. My suggestion for anyone that's doing this is to recognize that this is a moment of recreating who you are around money, and it's also recreating memory. You're creating new memories by an experience with emotion tied to it, and you're doing it consistently. Those three things are what create new beliefs. That's it.